Have you ever wondered what makes a good oracle deck or tarot deck? I've been putting a lot of thought into this, so stay with me. I'm going to unbox brand new decks that I've never seen before. Stay tuned. So before I unbox this, I want to think about something first, and that is what makes a good oracle deck or tarot deck for that matter. Now, if you're not sure about the difference, it's okay. When I first got into cards, I had no idea the difference between the two. So let me start off by telling you about tarot. Tarot decks follow the Fool's journey, card 0 to card 21, meaning these are the major themes that are happening in our lives. All the other cards that are in the deck, those are the minor things that are happening in our lives. So for example, if we're getting the Lover's card or the Tower card or the Chariot or the High Priestess with signs and synchronicities, these are the major things that are happening in our lives. Now, if you're getting cards like the Two of Swords or the Five of Cups, or the Eight of Wands, this is all about the things that are happening daily for you. Now remember, for you, not to you. Okay, so an oracle deck. Oracle deck is simply a deck that gives you themes and messages that can be universal. They're not based on any specific journey, but granted, there are millions of decks out there that offer different varieties of themes and messages, so they're not universal to the Fool's journey. The other day on my live stream, I asked all of you, my online family, what makes a good oracle deck or tarot deck? And I really appreciated the responses because they were pretty consistent. A lot of you say you like good imagery, bright colors, something that tells a story, something that feels good in your hands. Well, let me give you an example that's not about oracle cards or tarot cards, and that is literature. Your favorite books. Now, I don't know how many of you like to read, but I was an English teacher for 19 years, and I've taught my fair share of books, literature, imagery, word choice, you name it. So I invite you to take a book that you're really familiar with, something that you really connected with. For me, that book would be The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Now, what I like to do with this book is I like to put my energy into it. I will hold it in my hands. I will feel the texture, the way the pages feel as I sort of shuffle through, and I just build a connection to that book. Now, I like to use books like oracle decks, and I don't know if you've ever thought of that before, but it's a great exercise, especially if you're looking for a daily message. So what I like to do is I like to just open up to a random page. Okay, and I opened this page to page 9091. And so what I like to do is actually write down in my journal or notepad, whatever you may use, the page number, and basically a quote that really stood out at me. Okay, so guess what? When I opened up to page 9091, it gave me a quote exactly related to this conversation. And it says, because people become fascinated with pictures and words and wind up forgetting the language of the world. Now, if you've read The Alchemist, you know what I mean by the language of the world. This is about the universal language of the heart, okay? So here's the thing. Words, images, that's exactly what we're talking about here. What do they mean to us, okay? So if I was doing this as an exercise, I would write down on a piece of paper, notepad, journal, like I said, what the quote was, and maybe what it meant to me, and if it resonated to me in that moment. Now, here's the thing. You don't ever have to worry about spoilers because you're not going to remember necessarily after you've done this exercise. It's actually going to enrich your reading process. So if you're afraid of getting to a page that's ahead of where you're at, don't worry, okay? Now, on the flip side, you can do this for new books, books you've already read. You're basically using your literature, your favorite books, as an oracle deck. So you probably noticed my cat Jimmy in the background. So welcome to the kitty cats in the room. I also have another one to my left here because why? I'm starting to unbox. Of course they want to get into that action. Now I'm laughing at myself here in my very first unboxing video because the box that I opened, it's not even a tarot deck. So hold on a second. Let me go get the real packages for these tarot and oracle cards. Okay, I'm so laughing at myself because this must mean how many tarot decks do I actually have or oracle decks waiting for me to open. Now, they're not all in boxes. I chose this one now instead. We'll go to the bigger box later. But right now, let's open up this package to see what we have inside. And, ooh, very interesting. the Human Sprit Oracle. And now I remember exactly why I ordered this deck. This has very similar imagery to another deck that I've been using very consistently. And I think that they're made by the same author. So I'll check that out. I'll even tag the other one in the description. But let's take a look at this deck. I think what really drew me to this deck is that it said right on it, learning to reconnect. This is so important. We have to know how to reconnect to ourselves. I often say that we have a reawakening. Now, for those of you that wonder why I say that, it's because I believe that we're born awakened. Life just gets in the way. And then suddenly, when we're not listening to all these things coming at us, the signs, the synchronicities, the obstacles, we have a tower moment. And therefore, it forces us to reconnect with ourselves. Now, let's take a look at this deck. I'm going to open up the box. And I do love the quality of the box. I love the way that it opens. It opens like a book, in my opinion. And it's kind of like what I was just saying to you about using your favorite book as an oracle deck. So let's take a look at the guidebook first. And it looks really pretty. I love the colors. Green is heart chakra. So this is all about connecting to your heart. I mean, that's what I think of when I think of reconnecting, right? So let's take a look inside the book. Now, you might be hearing my kitty cat over here playing with the packaging. No surprise, she's a part of the vibe here, but let's look inside this book. Now, before I do that, I'm gonna do exactly what I just did with the Alchemist book that I had in my hands. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna feel it, I'm gonna put my energy into it. I'm going to flip the pages. I'm gonna feel that breeze of these pages flipping, giving me these messages. Now, let's take a look at a random page and see what we need to know. So here we go. Siren's Song. This is card number 21. Ah, the lure of the siren song. It beckons you and calls you with the premise of beauty, treasure, and magic. But not everything is as it seems. So essentially, the energy is telling us that we need to use discernment. Now, I always use a line in my readings that say, we marry potential, we divorce reality. So right now, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you need to see clearly? Where do you need to use discernment? Now, going into these pages, I can see that there's just beautiful coloring here. It's very calm. It's very well laid out. I wouldn't say that there's a ton of detail in the descriptions as I'm looking at this very quickly. At the same time, I know that the images on the cards are going to be extremely beautiful. So that being said, let's get right into the deck. Okay, so something I want to show to you is this beautiful imagery of this lock and key. And what it says with it is a guide to navigating life with gratitude and kindness. Now, I'm really big on gratitude. I believe that we must be thankful for where we're at, even if it's been difficult, okay? Those trials, those tribulations have brought you to where you are right now. And for me, it's brought me to you. So I'm very grateful that you're here with me. Now stay tuned because I'm gonna show you these cards and then I'm gonna do a very quick reading at the end and see what you need to know in your personal life. Okay, so the color of these cards is simply gorgeous. The green, the depth of the colors, unbelievable. Now I would say that this has taken a lot of effort. This doesn't feel like it was a rushed deck. It feels like somebody really put a lot of time and thought and feeling into these cards. So when I see the butterflies right off the bat, the transformation, the depth of the blues here that evokes so much emotion, the yellow here that makes me feel the nature aspect, the sunshine that heals us, you know what I mean? Look at the depth of this picture. It really gives you a lot to think about. And what I want you to do when you get a new deck, whether that's a tarot deck, an oracle deck, I want you to take time to, again, feel the cards, look at the images, write down any notes that come to you. You know what I mean? Really take the time to build a relationship or a connection with your deck. Now, I love stars. And right away when I see this, it says, baby, I'm a star. You sure are. So don't forget that. Maybe I was meant to tell you all that right now. But essentially, there's a lot of depth here. I invite you to do this with your cards or maybe even purchase this deck for yourself. If this connects with you, then absolutely explore it because I have a feeling that this is a deck that I'm absolutely going to love. I couldn't stop looking through them, and I wanted to just show them to you really, really quickly. I think that art and imagery are super important, and color evokes emotions. Now, there was another oracle deck that I did purchase that I will show you at a later time that is all about color. And I don't know how many of you have ever thought about the colors you wear or the colors you choose in your daily life, even in your home aesthetic, whatever it may be. Color does say a lot about us. Now, I'm sitting here wearing purple, and purple is a color of royalty. It's a color of depth. And for me, purple represents this connection to source, right? The crown chakra. So it also feels to me like the third eye, my intuition. So the upper chakras. I know that I feel very connected to source. I have a very strong intuition. I always say I know what I know and I trust myself. And that leads me to this point about tarot and oracle cards. Do you trust yourself? Do you pick up a deck and say, what do I need to know? And then use discernment. Because in that little like page opening that I did earlier, it said that sometimes we can get lured in by things. And we have to remember that that energy can be a short-term gain, but it could lead us to a long-term pain. So that's why I basically invite you to use discernment in doing whatever you're doing. You have to ask yourself, are you seeing things clearly? Because how many of you have ever been in a situation where you married potential, but you divorced the reality? So we always want to see things for the best, right? But that doesn't mean that they always are the best. And so therefore, it's so important for us to just simply breathe, take a moment, and use that discernment. Now, it's difficult to do that because it means we have to be real with ourselves. And that's why I always say to people, we need to be objective versus subjective. We need to look at the bigger picture because it's the bigger picture that's actually going to lead us in the right direction. If we're only thinking subjectively about what is in our sort of mind, our heart. Now, ultimately, it's important to be heart-centered or to know your own self, your own mind. It can also trick you. So you have to look at how outside influences or the bigger picture can actually make a difference in your life. Now, let's take a look at the last two cards here. And what was the last card? 44. Manifest your miracle. That's what we're here to do. Stay tuned. I'm going to do a quick reading for you. Earlier in this video, I mentioned that this deck reminded me of another oracle deck that I've been using. And of course, lo and behold, it is connected because here's the box for the other deck. It's called the Healing Heart Oracle, Love Letters to Your Soul. These decks have really, really spoken to me, and I hope that they speak to you too. Now, what I think I'm going to do is incorporate one card from this deck and a few from this one to do a little mini reading for you right now. For this mini reading, I'm going to be using one card from the Healing Heart Oracle deck. So let's start off with the current energy. Now remember, this is a timeless reading. Whenever you see this is whenever you see this. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. What's meant for you is meant for you. So at the center of the energy, we have here grieving heart. Open doors to something new. Many of you might be struggling right now with starting something new or letting go of the past. You know, the analogy that I used today actually in a session was that it almost feels like we're right between a full moon and a new moon, which is actually true. When we're in the energy of purging and surrendering and letting go, we often feel this heaviness, this need to release. At the same time, there's this pressure to start something new. And we're not quite there yet. So we're not quite done letting go. We're not quite opening up yet. So hopefully that analogy works for you in the sense that you know that you've got to make a move, but at the same time, you've got to let go. You've got to grieve, feel whatever you've got to feel, but allow the new energy in. So let's take a look at some energies surrounding that. And we have here hothead. So there might be some anger associated with this grieving. And with that here, we have homebody. Maybe you've been hermiting yourself. Maybe you've been afraid to move yourself forward, okay? Now let's take a look at what you need to know going forward. The Midas touch. You just have to believe that you've got it. You've got to trust in yourself and trust the process. And with that, we have here against the clock. Just know that you're not fighting time. Please don't worry about the who, what, when, where, why, and how. All you need to know is that you trust the process, work through your grief, but allow new things to come to you, because that's the key here. So those are your recent energies. You might be currently grieving, but know you've got everything it takes to start new. Take what you've learned from the past, apply it to the present, so you can have a better future. Many of you might be wondering what these cards feel like when you shuffle. Well, I think that they're actually quite sturdy. They're not flimsy at all. The quality seems really great. I mean, you can tell by the imagery and the depth of the ink here. Now, the green foil on the sides just adds that extra bit of touch that feels luxurious. It feels really, really nice. So if you're considering purchasing this deck, I think you're really going to like it. Okay, so my final verdict on this oracle called the Human Sprit Oracle, Learning to Reconnect by Jena Dellagrottaglia is amazing. Love the imagery, love the messages. This is a deck that I feel like I'm going to have a really deep relationship to. Now, please let me know in the comments what you thought of the cards as I was flipping through and talking, and even the reading that I just did for you. I always appreciate your feedback. So thank you very much for being here for my first unboxing / unpackaging. It means the world to me. Stay tuned because I'm going to be doing more in the near future.